Hey now, it's brew day and I'm going to make 3 carboys of an ordinary bitter. I love this beer. It's been a couple years since I did it, but it's awesome because it's a lower alcohol beer, so you can kind of have a few of them and it's not a problem. And it's nice, it's toasty, it's for a low alcohol, low original gravity beer. This recipe still has quite a bit of body to it and a lot of flavor and character. I'm gonna wind up throwing it on nitro, which is also fantastic and fun. So anyway, let's take a look at it here. So for the grist, I've got 7% of Carastan malt, which is a nice UK, sort of like a crystal malt. It gives some nice caramel and toasty flavors. I've got some special roast in here, which will give some nice biscuity, tangy, toasty flavors. So it was 7% of Carastan, it's 3.5% of special roast. I've got 2.5% of the grist is Carafa Special III, and that's just for a little bit of color adjustment. And then our base malt is a UK pale malt. So it's time to mill. So I'm milling this up on my Monster Mill 3mm Pro. Not a whole lot of grain here for 15 gallon for a 15-gallon batch, just because our target gravity is in the mid 1030s. All right, I'm ready to mash in here. This is just filtered water that I'm running in here. That'll work well with the type of wort that I'm looking to produce. I did add just a little bit of pH stabilizer to it, about 2/3 of a tablespoon for this 30 liters of water here. And I'm going to be mashing at 66.7 Celsius or 152 Fahrenheit, which will still leave me with a decently attenuable wort, but it'll also have a little bit of body to it, which is the whole idea here. So just going to make sure to mix up a nice ball of grain there. Perfect. Attach my lock line, get this set up here for a nice little recirc. Woo! Pretty hazy, some grain getting through there initially here until that grain bed gets set. No problem though. There we are. Nice little recirculation going on in there. Perfect. So this is going to be a 60-minute single step mash until we go to mash out. The 1 hour has passed, and so now it's time to ramp up here to mash out temperatures. So I'm taking this up to 75.5 Celsius or up in that 168 Fahrenheit temperature range. That's going to make it easier for sparging because my water doesn't have to be too hot and I can still strip everything out. Oh yeah, you can kind of see, I'm not sure if you can quite see it on the video, but the flame right through there, so we know that this is clear. It's not hazy anymore, so that starch conversion has taken place. Awesome. So once we get up to 75.5 Celsius, I'm going to let it sit there for probably 15 minutes just to make sure that this mash bed is in fact all up at that temperature. Okay, I am going to say that that is nicely mashed out. Get a little bit of that grain off of there. Switch my lid up, pouring into the boil kettle. And quickly remove this thermowell. Alright, so I'm going to begin the sparge process. So I'm just going to run off probably a gallon or two of water into here just to get that water level up above the grain bed, and then I can start to sparge and run off into the boil kettle. There is some of that sweet, beautiful wort coming out here now. I'm going to let this get up above the pickup tube and above the bottom part of my sight glass here, right there, so that I can then add my first wort hops without getting any of that into either the pickup tube or the sight glass. It is time for the first wort hop. I'm going all East Kent Goldings in this beer, and it's a 5.6% alpha. I'm going with 100 grams here right off the bat. That's going to give me the majority of my bitterness here. I'm going for 30 IBU overall, so between this and my 15-minute addition, it will get up into that range there. Flame on! Oh, we're going to be at a boil any minute here. The wort's just threatening to burst through that cap of first wort hops. Exciting times. And as promised, just a minute later, we are at a nice little rolling boil. So it's going to be a 60-minute boil. Those first wort hops are going to function as the bittering hops, so I am not adding anything until there are 15 minutes left. Time to clean some pots. So with 15 minutes left, I'm going to be adding 84 grams of these EKG hops. Ooh. Nice little flavor addition here. Angry wort. And with 10 minutes left, I'm just going to add some reserved wort with some super moss findings in there just to help hopefully result in a somewhat clearer beer. Alright, it is flameout time. Now I'm going to add the flameout hops. I've got 90 grams here of that same EKG. Pop that all in. Then, my spoon that's been sitting in here, staying nice and sanitized. I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick whirlpool. And that will help just make sure that there's a nice little cone of all this hot matter and trub and stuff in the bottom as opposed to around the sides and everywhere. So it shouldn't get picked up by my pickup tube. Perfect. Let's get that lid on there, give it 15 minutes, and then we can start to fill up some carboys. After settling for 15 minutes after that whirlpool, I've got the sterilized plate chiller here that I pressure canned earlier today all set up, and we are running off into the carboys. Well, now that I've got these down here, I'm going to go ahead and aerate them. So I'm doing this here for approximately 1 minute each, just to get a little bit of extra oxygen in here. Even though, to be honest, I'm really not worried about the fermentation. The original gravity is going to be pretty low. I haven't double checked it yet, so I could be lying to you unintentionally. But the yeast should have no problem with this wort. But still, I just want to aerate it here a little bit. And my original gravity on this ordinary bitter came in a couple of points high. We're at 1040. Might as well dump the beer, or maybe we'll let it ferment and see how it turns out. And it's yeast time, so I've got some rehydrated SO4 English yeast here. I'm just going to add, this is 1 pouch that was in 200 mils of filtered sterile water, just to rehydrate. I'm going to add 1 of these flasks to each. And these are sitting at 69 Fahrenheit right now, which is about 2 degrees warmer than I would have ideally fermented at. However, that shouldn't change things too terribly much. I'm okay with that. All right, well, I'll let them ferment. So here we are. I got the carboy hoods on there, blow-off tubes into the bucket, and now we're just ready for fermentation to kick off. And the next morning here, got nice little krauses on each of these. And the temperatures did come down just a little bit, so they were all at 69. They're now at 67 and 68 Fahrenheit, fermenting away very happily. Awesome. The forced attenuation test on this ordinary bitter came in at 1011. After these ordinary bitters hit terminal gravity, I went ahead and cooled them down in the carboys, letting the temperature drop so they could just flock out as much as possible. Then pressure racked them into kegs out of these carboys. Those have chilled down. I'm gelatin fining them now and then transferring them to carbonation kegs, and then we'll see how they taste. You can check out all of the specifics for those processes in the brewing playlist on the channel. The ordinary bitters finished off at 1011 finishing gravity there, which is awesome. It's right at the high end for the style, but I find that that leaves enough residual body and sweetness that it makes it seem like just a bigger beer than it really is, and it doesn't come across as too thin, so that's fantastic. Yes, I'm sporting my sweet Movember stash here. Deal with it just like everybody else in my life has to at the moment. Now, after clarifying that beer, I transferred it into a carbonation keg, just lightly carbonated it. It is an English beer. We don't want to overdo that. Also, I'm serving it on nitrogen, so I'm using a beer gas blend here, like a 70-30 nitrogen to carbon dioxide blend, and overcarbonating it is a little tricky. If you want to see how I like to have that set up, you can check out my video on that. And as for now, let's try out this beer. And just topping it up a little bit there. So, the burning question, how does it taste? First off, the mouthfeel of this beer is amazing. I mean, particularly because it's on nitro, it's just really smooth, luscious, coming across the palate, absolutely fantastic. Of course, it's also delicious, just lightly carbonated, served on top with CO2 or even bottled. As far as flavor goes, it has a lot of roastiness coming from both the Carastan as well as the special roast malt. Some of that nice toffee flavor coming out of that Carastan. The richness with that pale ale malt. Some of the fruitiness from that UK yeast strain. And of course, the EKG have that nice noble hop flavor carrying through here. As well as that 30 IBUs pairing really nicely with some of the flavors from the specialty malts, the body, and all of that. So makes for a really delicious, lower alcohol beer. And without having all that carbon dioxide in there, you're not going to really fill up on just the gas. So it's great for a session ale. So give it a whirl, and until next time, keep it and your mustache at 11.